Barry, are you ready to go today?
Oh, forget it.
I know. Forget it. Let's just do this. Let's get into this. Daniel Hager's here. Oh! Yes!
Oh, yeah.
Come on. Oh, my goodness. You somehow butt-dialed this podcast show. This is the Podcast Engineering Show. Welcome. My name's Chris Curran. I produce podcasts for a lot of big companies and a lot of medium companies. And every week on the show, we bring you podcast production techniques on a silver platter. We really talk shop with podcast producers and engineers and other specialists. I have a background in the music business, audio engineering. And when I entered podcasting about 6-7 years ago now, I noticed a huge lack of audio skills with podcasters. And so that's why this show is here. If you implement the best of what you learn here, your podcast will sound a lot better and you'll spend less time producing them. And just from a confidence building standpoint or an encouragement standpoint, I want to say that I believe that you can produce really great sounding audio. You really can, and I really believe you can. So if you're listening to this, send me a note, through the website or social media. The website is podcastengineeringschool.com. Send me a note. Let me know how you're doing, what you learned from the show. Of course, Barry's here with me.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And of course, Podcast Engineering School is the next semester starts January 15th, 2019. If you ever want to learn the really hardcore audio production techniques of podcast production, that's what I teach. Everyone who takes the course loves it immensely. It's not cheap, but it's the real deal. So anyway, today we have Daniel Hager here. Wait, hold on, Daniel. Where was my... Oh, here it is. Daniel Hager. He's connecting from Germany. His media agency is called Hager Media. That's right. And guess what? He has the URL, hager.media. And he also has a podcast show, Let's Talk Retouching. Let's Talk Retouching. And so, Daniel Hager, welcome to the Podcast Engineering Show.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
Yes! Daniel, I'm happy you're here. I'm happy you have a really good microphone and good equipment, and that you're recording yourself, too.
Yeah, I am. I hope it's good. So we'll see how it turns out, right?
No, it actually sounds really good. What microphone are you using?
I kind of modified this microphone. So it actually is kind of a cheap microphone, a China-built microphone. So that's the core of it. And I modified the circuit a little bit, changed a few condensers, and changed the capsule. So now it's sounding probably much more expensive than the outside looks like.
That is cool. I mean, we could literally probably talk for about a half an hour on what you bought and how you changed it. Yeah. But it does sound really good, and we'll just call it the Hager microphone. What do you think about that?
I definitely have to print a label and put that on there.
And you could start telling people you'll build them a microphone and just sell them.
Yeah, it's probably not worth my time, but it would be fun.
Yeah, that's right. That's project. One of those things. Jeez. So you've heard the show before, so I'm really psyched to get into your podcast production setup, your equipment and your workflow and everything. And of course, we're going to start with the speed round, but I really appreciate you being here. And I just want to say that for you and the listeners, I really just enjoy talking about podcast production and audio gear and all this stuff. And I'm so happy that I really do get a lot of notes and messages that people send me telling me that, just by listening to my show for, a few months or maybe a year, they have learned so much in terms of technical audio production knowledge and tricks and tips. And I'm just so happy that I can share all this stuff with the podcasting world, and I can have great guests on who can share their knowledge too. So, I mean, because I don't think there's another show like this show. I really don't. I could be wrong.
I don't think so. But also, I want to say it's nothing wrong with being a nerd and liking gear, even though some people say, oh, it's not about the gear. But after all, if you like technology, you're obviously into gear. But you shouldn't buy everything just because you want it.
Right. Unless you're Bandrew Scott from Podcastage, then
you buy
no,
everything,
you know what?
right? every microphone that's out there.
Yeah. And what's great too is he when I started streaming recently for the Podcasters Lounge, if you want to check out the Podcasters Lounge, it's a live stream I do. And he was like, "What is that channel strip you have?" Because I have a really expensive channel strip. So then he's like, "Oh, I was looking at this other really expensive channel strip. Was it the Sheldrake or something from Rupert Neve?" And it's literally almost $4,000 for a channel strip, but it's awesome, right? So he's really contemplating getting that, and I also want that too, but you know.
Yeah, you have to make a note when he said it that he wants it, and when he actually shows that he has it. So you can refer back to, hey, took you just 80 days or like 30 days probably.
Right? And so
that would be fun to do.
I think the Neve company headquarters might be in Texas. I was literally looking this up recently, and I think Rupert Neve he's still alive. I think he's in his 90s, or he's 89 or 90. But wow, I should probably try to interview Rupert Neve, right? That would be awesome.
Yeah, you should. Because with technology, they have done so much what we now take for granted and work their asses off, and that will die out, that information at some point, and we're not doing it the ways we used to do it. And everything comes from China nowadays, and it's great to see some companies that still are around that are from the US or over here in Europe where I live.
Totally. And if I won the lottery for like $1 bajillion, like I would probably want to learn, like all the research that Neve does and all that, and like how they make their stuff. And I would like want to design my own like channel strip, the mic preamp and the EQ and everything. But
that would be cool.
That would be really cool. So let's get into the speed round, Daniel. You're familiar with it.
Yeah,
Tell us real quick, just starting from your microphone through your equipment into your software. Tell us what equipment you're using, what software you're using, and then all the way till the end when you have a finished podcast episode.
Yeah, so I just learned I have the Hager Media mic, and which I'm talking into right now, and also so it's a China built microphone, and it comes with different flavors or brands. So different brands are labeling it. I think CAD has once labeled it as the CAD GTX 2000, and over here there's a big music store that sells it as their own brand. So I modified that and changed the capsule and all that stuff. But I also have different mics like a Rode Procaster and shotgun mics for video production and all that stuff. So yeah, that's the microphone I'm using now. Then it goes into my preamp, which is the DBX 286S. It's powered, so I have a power conditioner, which powers everything from the interface, the channel strip, my monitor speakers, my computer, and everything runs out of clean power, basically. And that's the Samsung Power Bright. I don't know the model name, but yeah, that's the power conditioner. And from there, I was tempted to say I'm going into my Focusrite, but I just recently upgraded to a PreSonus. It's called the 192 Studio Mobile, and that's a newer interface, USB 3. It has two mic pre's in, two line in, so I'm coming from the DBX going into the line in, and then it's recording in the software. And when I do local recordings, I either record in Audition or with the PreSonus Studio One. And for the podcast, I'm using a virtual mixer on my computer. That is called a little bit of a software called Voice Meter. And that allows me to connect different hardware devices and route things like you are used to doing on a Mac. So I can route different programs in there and create different mixes or mix minuses for my guests. And yeah, then I record into a WAV file with different channels in it. So I end up with just one file and just extract the channels, putting it into multi-session, and then edit my podcast. And usually I do that with Audition because I'm just faster compared to other DAWs I've tried.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, pretty much everything is done in Audition. So I do the editing, the export, metadata of the files, the loudness, the image is all done in Audition. And then I upload it to Microsoft Cloud Storage. And from there, I distribute the podcast. So that's it for the speed round on my side.
Nice. Good job, man. It's so a couple things. You just said, and I missed it because I was typing in something. You just said that your media host is Microsoft Cloud?
Yes. Yeah, Microsoft Cloud Services, they're called Azure. And yeah, they have similar to Google S3 storage, which can be, depending on what you choose, what you're choosing, can be quite cheap. And for me, the Microsoft ended up the cheapest so far. So I'm hosting it there. But I guess you need to be a little bit technical to set things up there.
I see. So it's not... Okay. Yeah, so that's why, like Libsyn and Blueberry, the more popular media hosts are probably easier.
They make it easy, and they also distribute your RSS feed. So I do it via WordPress, and just the files are on a different server. So they're not on the same server as my website, because that obviously wouldn't go well over time. And
Totally. So... All right, and then for your new audio interface, and this is so cool because we're gonna get so into all this stuff. Your new audio interface is a PreSonus Studio
Studio Mobile 192 or something is the model called.
Okay,
and that's an interesting device, I have to say. So what interested me in this device was not the amount of mic pre's that it has built in. So it's just 2 mic pre's. And for that, it's actually quite expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has line-ins, which my Focusrite 2i2 doesn't have. And it bugged me to always go through the mic pre's with a line input. And now I can go line in into my interface. And also for the output, what I discovered is now I have dedicated balanced outputs to go into my monitor speakers, and I could turn the monitor speakers down like almost 60% to get the same loudness. So that's kind of cool.
Oh, that is cool. So
yeah, it is. I'm not sure. Should we go into like how balanced versus unbalanced signals work or stuff?
Yeah, let's do it. So we're talking about hold on one second. We're talking about the PreSonus 192 Mobile. That's the name of the interface. And I like the fact that you just said that it has 2 separate outputs for monitors, right? And then there's 2 other outputs that can... Well, no.
Yeah, it has multiple outs. So it has the main outs and 4 different regular outs, and then it has 2 added in and added out. So I can plug in 2 8-channel mic pre's into this interface.
Wow.
Which is kind of great. And it has a DSP chip, so a signal processor with a virtual mixer. And I can put gate, compressor, EQ, and limiter on it, which runs on the interface. I can set up 3 different monitor speakers and AV them, or put different headphone mix on it, and all that weird stuff that is working now digitally. So I was kind of fascinated by what it can do, and I'm just dipping my feet into what it actually can do. But it's nice so far.
Yeah, it looks really good. And how much? I wonder how much it costs. Let me look it up on Amazon. But how much did it cost for you?
I think around 450 euros, so maybe 500-ish US dollars, I would guess.
Okay, I'm looking on Amazon right now, and it looks like $350.
Yeah, isn't that? So they have different versions. So
right. There's another one that's $500. Yeah.
Yeah, then it's probably the 500 one.
Yeah.
And it's all digital, so I can plug in a microphone into the preamp and go into the software mixer and adjust if the channel is using phantom power or not, and adjust the gain without touching the interface at all.
Right.
So,
that is nice. I like when you, I haven't used that. So I know certain interfaces you'll be able to open up software in the computer and adjust levels and route things. Actually, no, I should take that back. I used to do that with one of the old Focusrite interfaces that I used to have.
Yeah.
But this was even before I got into podcasting.
probably the Claret series or something, the high end.
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't even remember.
I think in the high end stuff, they have that too.
Yeah, so and I'm sure a lot of interfaces have it, but that's cool that you can open up software and control your interface from there. I think the Universal Audio interfaces,
they also have DSP chips and stuff on it now. So it's interesting. And also so on the Windows side, when we talk about the interfaces, usually you just can use one interface because you're using the Azure driver and it just shows up as one device. But this one, interestingly, the two main preamps, they show up as a separate device, and the two line ends, they show up as a separate device. So I can route stuff natively in Windows, and I can also route stuff just to my headphones or just to the monitor speakers in Windows. So
wow. We're going to get all into the voice meter software because I never even heard of that.
That's crazy.
And I only switched over to Mac like not even a year ago, like 11 months ago. And before that, I had never found anything for Windows that could actually do like reliable internal routing of different audio and stuff. So I'm totally psyched to talk about that. But we were going to actually get into balanced and unbalanced. Why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So from my understanding, speaking as not an audio engineer, with unbalanced, you have usually one signal because you just have one line and the ground. And with balanced signals, you have two, and they are phase inverted and get inverted. Like when the signal is sent out, they get phase inverted, and when it comes in, they get phase inverted. So what that means is you have double the signal strength that can be added later on. So you get more loudness out of it, but also for when you're running long cables for stages and stuff like this. So that takes out the interference via the air. So what I know. But speaking about the, now that I go out as a balanced cable into my monitor speakers with the added loudness later on, I could turn down my monitor speakers like way down and still get the same loudness. So that was kind of cool.
That is cool. And yeah, it's really good.
So what you're talking, like what are you saying about that? Was that kind of okay as an audio engineer or non-audio engineer speaking?
No, that's good. You described balanced versus unbalanced really well. And I was just about to say that it's good. If you can, it's always good to use balanced cables.
Yeah, it really bugged me. It was like when I was using the Focusrite, I really had to go with like from the balanced output out of the DBX, going into the mic pre and turning the mic pre down because I couldn't go around that mic pre. It's just not like the interface is not built to do that. So at some point I knew I just have to get something else, and then my gear addiction syndrome, or like gear acquiring syndrome, in the photography world they call it GAS, the gear acquiring syndrome, kicked in, and I bought this in the interface. Yeah,
that's great. So overall, your overall opinion about it, how would you say the PreSonus 192 is better than the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2?
Well, so thinking about the inputs you can get, so I can add another mic pre, like 8 channels, and just digitally plug them in and control them via the mixer as well. And that I couldn't do. So the Focusrite 2i2 is just, you have that or you upgrade it. You cannot add anything. And this one has, added in, added out, SPDIF, word clock in, word clock out. So you're much more flexible when you take it with you and plugging it in, going into studio, and still want to use this interface instead of what they're using there.
Right. And do you hear any difference between the quality of the mic preamps?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, now that I'm going line in, the mic pre's, it's hard to tell. So it depends on the microphone. So I have the Rode Procaster here, and that thing sucks up a lot of gain. So you hear a little bit of noise, no matter what, because you have to turn it on. If I run it in the DBX and then obviously go line in, then it's super great. Yeah. Other than that, like the digital converter, they are super great from what I've been testing out now. The sound that's coming out so far seems pretty clear. It goes super high resolution as well.
Yeah.
Usually I'm not using that, so I record everything in 48 kilohertz, so sample rate. So that's usually fine for my podcasting stuff and video stuff. But
right.
You never know.
Yeah. So, all right. So you're using the DBX 286S, which is it's a little channel strip, which is nice.
Channel strip and processor, yeah.
Right. And so one thing that a lot of people who have a DBX 286S, they end up processing the audio too much. So they use too much of the low frequency, too much of the high frequency, too much compression, too much de-essing. I've heard that many times. People, too much de-essing.
Oh, yeah. Then you get...
So your voice to me right now, and we're connected over Zencastr, but you're recording locally, so you're going to send me that file later. What kind of processing are you doing on the DBX 286? Is it gentle? It must be gentle.
Yeah, it kind of is. So my compression setting is, I try to get the mic pre relatively hot, so I'm still used to the idea of getting it just so it doesn't clip. And then I run the compression is set to, let me see, like between 2 and 3. So it's not super harsh, and it usually just kicks in for the super loud syllables or whatever I'm talking. So it just catches the loud parts. And then, a little bit of enhancing, but just a little bit. So what I found with this microphone, the capsule I put in a large diaphragm hypercardioid capsule, so when I get close it gets super bassy, so I add a little bit of this clarity back. And for the expander, it's also a super gentle ratio. It turns it down eventually, but it also is like 1.5 to 1, so it's not even 1 to 2 ratio. And then the cutoff frequency or threshold, how it's called there, is like minus 40 or minus 50. So it's kind of gentle.
That is it. It really is. And it sounds nice. Like
but I've been there. Like when I bought this thing, I cranked everything up, and as you're not used to hearing your voice, you tend to overdo things like crazy.
Totally. That's what everyone does. It's very natural. So yeah, even in mixing, like when you mix something and you're adding an EQ later, like if you say, "Ooh, I want to add some bass," you'll add a lot of bass and it'll sound okay. You think it sounds good, but you added way too much bass. So one good rule of thumb for mixing is that, or even just getting your settings on the DBX 286S, one of the rules of thumb is like add enough bass. Let's talk about the bass, for instance. Add enough bass so that you think it sounds good. Then reduce it from there about 1/3 the distance back to 0.
Yeah.
And then just leave it there. And then keep listening. Listen for another 5 or 10 minutes, whatever. And then if you really think, "Ooh, no, I really want more bass," then turn the bass back up a little bit. But most times, when you back it off about 1/3, like, so let's say you added 3 dB of low end, let's say at 110 hertz, you added 3 dB. Well, if that sounds good, I would say back it down to 2 dB, only add 2 dB, and then let it sit there, and then keep mixing your episode. And then then you'll hear it in about 3 or 5 minutes, you'll hear like, "Oh yeah, that it sounds good," or "Oh no, I want to add more bass back." So that's just a little tip there.
Yeah, so I also do a lot of post-production on images, and I have to say so I'm also teaching image editing, and there it's basically the same thing. People overdo it, and you always work on, so your eyes and your ears, they cannot store any information because it's constantly refreshed, right? So you always work off what you're seeing or what you're hearing, and you need to either get experience to build a reference library, or you have to go away to judge it with fresh ears or fresh eyes.
Totally. It's what a great analogy to adjust, enhancing photos to mixing audio.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
But that happens with basically everything. So in photography, when we teach lighting, and light is basically just wavelengths, and it behaves the same as audio. So you have reflections, and everything you deal with in audio, you deal with in photography as well.
Right.
It's just a different medium.
But I guess one situation where this little trick doesn't work is like if you're cooking and you want to add some salt, you can't add a bunch of salt and then take some out
and
again.
take it out. Oh, no, that doesn't work. Obviously,
unless there was like an anti-salt that you could add.
Yeah, well, probably add everything else, right?
That's right. Add more rice and beans and everything. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
And then all of a sudden you have cooked for like 40 people.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm telling you, Barry's hungry.
Oh yeah.
He could he could eat. All right, so let's talk about your computer. It's a self-built Windows computer. Now, did you get really nutty with this? Like, did you buy all different parts and Frankenstein this thing together?
Yeah. So it ended up like a Frankenstein build because it is kind of oldish now, and I didn't see a reason to upgrade it for as long as it's working. So I ended up upgrading parts here and there, and now I'm running an i7 processor, 4 cores, 8 threads, and overclocked the Sorry, can I say that?
Yes. I overclocked the sugar out of it. Yes.
Yeah, the sugar out of the processor. So usually it's running at like 3.3 or 3.4 gigahertz, and I overclocked it to 4.4. Oof. Sometimes in winter I can overclock it 4.8.
Wow.
In summer that doesn't work anymore. So yeah, for now it's still running, and as long as it's running, I keep it, and then I will upgrade because I'm at the point where I have to buy everything. I have to upgrade my processor, my board, my RAM, everything. So
I got it.
As long as it's working, it's my machine here.
So when it is time to upgrade everything, will you look for like one computer and that has all the things you want in it, or will you build it from scratch?
I will build it myself. So I grew up building computers as a child, teenager, and I'm quite familiar still with the technology and how to match components. So I will go that route and just make it even more beefier or more beefy.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a weird question. I recently upgraded my internet speed, and on my main computer, it reflected the speed change. So right now, through the cable company, I think it's 35 megabits per second upload, and the download is supposed to be like 1,000. But that's on my main computer now, and that's plugged in like not USB, Ethernet cable plugged in, right? So then I have this laptop, which it's not the best laptop. It's sort of cheap. It's kind of in the middle. And I put an Ethernet cable into this laptop, and I did the speed tests, and it just doesn't upload and download as fast. Now, is that the cheap computer that's making the upload and download speed less?
It could be the chip for the Ethernet connector, or it could be how the chip is integrated in the other parts of the main board. That could be an issue. Some connectors are still 100 megabit. That could be, usually it shouldn't be an issue because like your download speed or upload speed is much lower than that.
Right.
So usually I would say it's the components or something on the operating system is slowing it down.
Right. Yeah. Something was slowing it down, and I was like, it made me realize like there's so many things inside a computer that affect everything else. Right.
Yeah, definitely. It can be like sometimes you have processes running, and Windows users are obviously more prone than Mac users of having something running in the background and slowing things down. So usually it takes a little bit of getting used to the hardware and having a proper look at what might be wrong. And yeah, it's hard to judge like just from the download speed alone.
Right. All right. So you're on a Windows computer and
Yes.
you're using Audition mainly,
Yeah.
but sometimes
Yeah,
you use
so-
PreSonus Studio One?
Right. So now that I get the PreSonus interface, they give you the artist version of the PreSonus Studio One, and I'm fiddling around with that. So there are a few nice things that you can adjust the mix without going to this software piece that they provide with you with the interface. So you can change the preamps right from your DAW without going anywhere else. So stuff like this.
That is cool.
And yeah, it's kind of nice, and yeah, I'm thinking about getting another MIDI controller to work a little bit with that and just stuff in the DAW. Now we might get to that a little bit later. So I have a little MIDI controller, a cheap one to control my voice meter banana stuff, but for a DAW I want to get one with motor faders and all that.
Oh
Nice
yeah,
tactile stuff.
motorized faders, baby.
Yeah. So I have to say I ruined some recordings. So I'm recording via the routing everything through the voice meter banana, and I have this nano control from the company is called Korg. I guess it's a German company. So anyways, it doesn't have motor faders. So when you slide in the software, the fader doesn't move, or you hit the fader and you don't necessarily notice it that much. And it's easy to mess things up without taking any notice of what you're doing.
Oh,
Or you get jumps. So you adjust something in the software piece, adjust the slider, and obviously your slider doesn't move and is at a different setting. And when a new MIDI signal comes in, it basically the next setting from when you move the slider, so it jumps back down or back up. That's kind of the annoying part.
yeah. So a lot of people who are into podcast production probably have never experienced that. So the thing with faders connected to automation, or in this, what you're talking about is a physical fader also controlling a fader in the computer. If it's not a motorized fader, which the old Neve system, they used to call them flying faders. And if it's a motorized fader, it's fine, because when you play let's say when you play the audio in the computer, then you'll see the physical fader move, like without you even touching it. And that's fine, because let's say the level comes down and then you want to grab the fader and push it up. You just grab the fader and push it up. But what you're talking about, the level difference is, if the physical fader in front of me does not move, let's say my fader's at -20, and in the computer, let's say the audio is at 0. So now when I grab the fader at -20, all of a sudden the level is going to drop down from 0 to -20, and it's in one jump, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. And that's super annoying when you want to run automation or go over, like you've done automation already and your faders do not move. So that's, you basically cannot do that.
Yeah.
You have to make it perfect in one go.
Yeah, automation, even with flying faders, it's hard, because if you just want to, like, I remember, working on music, and like there'll be like one word of the lead vocal that the engineer would want to push up, let's say.
Yeah.
So you kind of have and let's say the fader's already coming down. You already automated it to be coming down a little, but you want to grab it, push it up real quick, and let go. It can be tricky, right? And you got to time it right. So anyway, that's
it's like you're trying to push, and when it's the right amount of pressure that the fader is starting to move and hitting the right time, and it's just milliseconds, right? And now imagine that without having any feedback on a controller. So
yeah.
But sometimes you could go in there nowadays and just click and set points to automate stuff. But obviously sometimes I'm just too lazy to do that. And I was like, oh, I rather have a slider move here and there, and then I'm done. So
yeah, definitely like moving a fader with your finger is so different than like just drawing the lines.
Yeah, it gives you another feedback, right? It's something is like pushing buttons around is like, then the nerd comes through again. It's like, I want to have stuff that my hands can touch somehow, even though everything is digital.
But I will say for podcasting, I haven't found a need to have physical faders and to ride faders. Like music, it's different because like, maybe in the chorus you want to push up the guitars, or like there's a million things to do in music. Like you adjust the levels so much in music, but podcasting is different. I mean, just as long as someone sounds good and that has the right EQ and compression, their level pretty much stays the same the whole time. You're not going to ride them up or ride them down. So
what I can do is, so the voice meter banana, maybe you should just get into what that thing can
voice
do.
meter. Because you're blowing my mind here. Not blowing my mind, but I didn't know that this voice meter existed. And I'm really interested to hear you tell us what it can do. So take it away.
I've been looking so long to get a solution. So basically it is a virtual mixer board, and it gives you an interface of a mixer. And believe it or not, so I have this MIDI controller, and that software piece also talks MIDI, and I can use my sliders to adjust the volume for me or for a guest, and I can mute myself and I can mute the guest, or I can slide in or fade in music coming from another channel and have it played back to the guest or to a live stream or whatever it is. And so that's what it comes handy just for the mute functions and just this stuff. So anyway, so the voice meter, so I hope I can explain it like in audio what it does. So it basically provides you 3 hardware inputs and 3 hardware outputs and 2 virtual inputs and outputs, and I can connect to the hardware outputs. I can either connect a physically existing device like my interface, but I also can run something like a virtual cable, which is basically just a dummy device for the operating system. And I can go into Zencaster, for example, and for the input, like my audio is going to the output on the mixer board, which it might be confusing. So my audio is going to an output and going in an input in the software. And I can use this dummy device to set as an input for the software and as an output on the mixer. So I can route my signal to the software and route a software to me, or route another Skype conversation back into our conversation now, because I would choose a different dummy device.
Yes. So let me recap a little. And by the way, this voice meter it sounds similar to Audio Hijack for Mac.
Yeah, it's just more graphical as an interface. So you just you basically control it like you would control a mixer board. You just have to use you set your inputs and outputs, and some people find it confusing. Okay, when turns what from an output to an input for the piece of software that you're using. So,
yeah. So the virtual devices and the virtual audio cables, that's what you're talking about. For what we're talking about, they're the same thing. Virtual devices or virtual audio cables. And it's like within that little voice meter mixer, and same in Audio Hijack, you can actually create a virtual instrument or a virtual audio cable. And the way I do it is if I want my voice and Barry, where Barry's here, I'm trying to think of a good Barry clip.
No way. You crazy?
Yeah, no, yes way, Barry. So I have my voice, I have my iPad.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Me and Barry, and I have any music that I want to play, right? This is all the music's from my iPad. Then I could have someone on Skype as well. And so what you do is, for instance, if I wanted to take my voice, my iPad, and Skype, and I want to mix those together and send them to Daniel over Zencastr. That's how you do it with these virtual devices and the virtual audio cable.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you get to pick what sources go where. And you could do anything. That's part of the reason sometimes it's confusing. Even for me, when I was setting up Audio Hijack first, I mean, I'm doing some crazy stuff with Audio Hijack, but it literally took me a couple weeks to experiment and try things and to really wrap my head around this whole virtual instrument thing, because it's literally unlimited. You can do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. And believe it or not, so I also have the option to create mix minuses for every output. So I can create 5 mix minuses basically, but also I have the option for every output. I can set EQ. I can set for so people who are not using professional gear, they can some sort of software gate and compression they can use on the inputs. What else can they do? Use some effects, but also it has a recorder. So when I record, and it's nice for me to use the software also to record, is I can route all the signals that I want in the recording and send them to one output or a mix bus, basically on this piece of software. And then I create, they call it a composite channel, basically, and it encompasses all channels that come in and out, and I can record a multi-channel WAV file. So I can record 4, 6, or 8 channels WAV file and have all the tracks in there. So channel 1 and 2 usually is a stereo mix down, and then I have the rest of the channels, which I can have myself or the guest or guests coming into. Can you hear my cat?
Oh, barely. I don't have my headphones up too loud, but hello, kitty cat.
Hey, kitty.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast engineering show. It's nice to have her around, but yeah. So
she's probably laying on top of your PreSonus 192.
Yeah, she wishes she could use it.
Oh boy.
One day I will take a picture of her, like making a Photoshop composite, making a DJ or something.
Yeah, or put headphones on.
Headphones on, yeah. So yeah, the recording when I do a podcast ends up usually being just one file and has all the tracks in it, and then I can just throw it into my Audition project and grab the tracks I want and just throw them into the multi-track session and line them up because they are already lined up or perfectly. And then I'm done and I don't have to look for different files. It makes it easy.
That is cool. Now in Voicemeeter, you have set different inputs. So for instance, you can have your local microphone as one input, obviously.
Yes.
You could have an iPad going through your PreSonus.
Yes. I could also use a different, so if someone just has maybe the budget solution as an interface, they could add a different interface as well and run it as the second input. And use the preamp. And also use it as an output so you can create different mixes for 2 people running out of one interface and the other one, because the lower end, they usually have just one headphone mix to go out. So
that let me just summarize what you just said. You could potentially have 2 audio interfaces connected to your Windows machine, and
it could be 3. Yeah,
it could be 3. And then you can
3
actually
hardware devices
with Voicemeeter send separate mixes to each one, and then people can plug in headphones to each one, and that's pretty cool.
Yes, it allows you to add 3 hardware interfaces. Potentially, you could also use dummy devices and 2 already preset virtual devices. So it's 5 inputs and 5 outputs you can run.
That's awesome.
And basically 5 mixes.
So you can have your voice, you could have an iPad, you could have someone on Skype. Could you also have someone coming through Chrome, through Zencastr?
Yes.
And all recorded separately?
Yes.
This is it. This is it, everybody. Right now, you're learning along with me, unless you knew this already, but this Voicemeeter software sounds like Audio Hijack for Windows.
Yeah. I guess it is. And it took me quite a while to figure out what it can do, and also to do the multi-track recording in just one file.
Right.
And the best thing about it is pay what you want software. So if you're running Windows and want to use it, you just offer this guy to pay a few bucks, which I guess he will be pretty happy with. And then you start using it.
So, but okay. So now, because it's sort of like, pay what you want, it makes me think that this isn't. It makes me think that this is just some guy in his basement who made this, not like a big company.
Probably. Yeah.
But so, is it current? Is it being updated, and does it stay current?
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't found anything that isn't working, and I haven't updated anything. So basically, I never had issues. Never done updates, and for so long, it basically all it is the visual interface and running the connections that obviously go via the devices you run on your operating system. So it just grabs it, and
So, but that's interesting. That's an interesting thing to notice, though, because there's a lot of people making these little apps, little software, and some of them are good, but like it's just someone created it once, like 5.5 years ago, and it's never been updated. So like basically at some point it's going to break. So you just got to be careful.
You probably can't expect a lot of support. So you have to try it out and figure out how it works. And I think there are not super many tutorials. Some streamers are using it. So there are a bunch of people who are doing game streaming. They use it. And that's probably how I discovered it. Because you can have people jump in and send everything out via a mix bus and provide that to the stream that's going on. And but it's definitely not a big company. And probably for everyone who's using Windows worth checking out.
Well, Voice Meter sounds awesome. And now you're recording on a composite wave file with 4, 6, or 8 tracks, and it's 24-bit and 48 kilohertz. Is that right? Well,
let me check.
Okay.
Let me check. So it's definitely 48 kilohertz, and the recording is 24 bits.
Yeah, 24-bit. That's 24-bit is the big deal. Yeah. 24 is much better than 16.
So the only issue is when you're recording right into file, not in your DAW, that when you're recording 8-channel 24 bits, that at some point you hit a recording limit and the software doesn't write anymore, and it has to create a new file.
Right.
And stops the recording. But that's happening after like an hour. So
Right. So once the composite wave file hits, it's either 2 gigabytes or 4 gigabytes. Actually depends on a couple other things. And I'm not sure what it depends on, but I've seen people say it can be up to 4 gigabytes, but when I did it locally myself, it would, after about 2 gigabytes, so what it does is it stops recording the first file but immediately starts another file.
Yeah, this one doesn't, unfortunately, so you have to pay attention. But usually what I do, I usually just have one guest. So I record a 4-channel, which can run like 2 hours, and that's usually fine.
Well, what I would say, just off the top of my head, if you ever really needed to record 6 or 8 tracks, and you definitely want to go for, more than an hour or more than like 45 minutes, then, dropping it down to 16-bit wouldn't be the end of the world.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest, if you're recording it properly and don't have to do a bunch of boosting and compressing and what else, then you're fine with a lower bit rate.
Right. Well, right.
Yeah.
But look, like 16-bit is still an uncompressed wave file. That's still a lot of information.
It is.
It's just that 24-bit is way more information. So that's all.
Oh, yeah. Exponentially more.
Oh, pretty much. Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
No. Yes. Exponentially, because it has to do with the bits.
Yeah.
It doubles every new bit. The resolution doubles. Yes.
Yes.
That's awesome. All right. So Using Audition. So in Audition, what are you doing in Audition? Just kind of editing, and do you add do you use a lot of plugins? Do you use EQ and compression in post production?
I try to stick with the native plugins usually, and so in Audition I sometimes do some noise reduction, which I do pre-hand. So in Audition you have the option to go from your multitrack right into the WAV file and apply something straight to the WAV file and do some calculations on there or noise reduction. So I sometimes do that before I hit it with compression and stuff, which I do non-destructively in the multitrack. And then I run my myself and my guests or everything that is voice related, get some processing and runs into a mix bus. And from there it's getting mixed to with some music, which is on another track and doesn't go into the mix bus, obviously. And then on the master, which usually just has a little bit of limiting going on. And then the good thing about Audition for me is that I do my file naming, meta description, and I can put the image and everything just ready to upload, doing it in Audition.
Really?
And what I use is they have a channel plugin, basically an effect that is a loudness meter. So you can get an estimate while someone is talking, how loud he is versus the other person, which makes it a little bit easier to mix because I am compressed, the guest usually isn't compressed, and then you can just guess by a visual feedback on where things lie, and then it runs onto the mix bus and gets compressed both on the same time or limited. And then I export it out, usually at 320 kilobits per second,
Really?
MP3 file. Yeah. I don't care that much about the storage.
I love it. Oh, I love to hear this. Oh, this makes me so happy.
So,
yeah, but wait, people would say, "Oh, but what about your listeners? They have to download a big huge file and people aren't going to do that." What do you think?
But honestly, every morning when I get up and open my podcasting player and download all the episodes, and then I listen on the go without downloading them. So I guess most people do that. So
you're saying
honestly,
they don't actually download the entire MP3. They just they stream it basically.
Yeah, I mean, I download it via my apps that I'm using. I'm not streaming it, and it depends. But obviously, I don't know. I don't like the idea of putting bad audio quality because at some point it's degrading like crazy, and just to save a little bit of files. So it doesn't cost me much to just bump it up one notch for the quality. And from my experience, every podcast, no matter how interesting the podcast is, when the audio is crap and I'm in the car, I'm not listening to it.
Right.
I just switch it off and often unsubscribe because so it's always a trade-off. Are you giving them more to download, or are you providing them with hopefully better audio quality?
Right. Well,
and better content.
Yeah. And so, but you're definitely, it's a stereo file at 320.
Yes.
kbps. Yeah. That's awesome. All right. So, and by the way, one time I really was thinking about offering my episodes like on my, not through the podcast feed, but just on my website, like having people be able to download the actual WAV files of my show.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Which is
but
ridiculous.
The issue then will be where are you hosting them? Because they are going to be insanely huge files, and hosters usually don't like that.
Well, yeah. So an hour-long episode, which my episodes of the show are about an hour, 24-bit, 48 kilohertz. It's about a gigabyte, maybe slightly more than a gigabyte.
But you could use the FLAC file format, the compressed, or like the lossless compressed.
Yes. Yeah, the FLAC. I don't use FLAC files, but I always love the fact that they can be smaller but still maintain the quality. It's awesome.
Well, it's the same like creating a zip file on your file. So it still has the same file. It doesn't lose any data, but it gets compressed. So your application that opens it up takes a little bit time and processing to unpack it. And that's
Right.
basically all.
Got it. All right. So wait, in Audition, you're doing multi-track in Audition, and you're adding
Yes.
effects and EQ and compression, and you're also adding your image title and description so that
Yeah.
when you go and say, okay, mix it down to an MP3, at the same time mixes it down to an MP3 and also creates the tagging information with the image and the title.
Yeah, I can create the tags. I could create markups for chapters and all that stuff. So I can do that all from Audition. The only thing that I have to do after export is add the image, because it cannot be applied to the multi-track session, which it is before exporting. And I have to do that to the file later. But other than that, I just open up the MP3 file, check if the loudness is at minus 16 LUFS, and add the image, and then I upload it to my file server. So that's all I do. It doesn't go anywhere else. Just upload and then gets distributed.
Right? That's awesome. I just realized throughout this episode, have I been saying Audacity at times when we're really
I'm not
talking
sure.
about
I haven't
Audition?
paid that much attention, but it's Audition.
It is Adobe
Audacity,
Audition. Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah, Audacity. Oh man, I think I used that back in the old days when I was playing in bands and we hadn't had any money, so we either had to use a cracked version of Cubase or use Audacity. Yeah, which wasn't. I don't want to say some people can't. They can use it and they can get great results, but it's not what I would enjoy editing with.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I agree. I tried Audacity a few times and it just never felt right. It just something about it was like, it just felt like
Yeah, and
cheap.
sometimes it's just the interface that it throws you off and makes you wonder, like, oh, why doesn't that work, or why doesn't this work? And that's the same reason why some people want to use a Mac and others don't. So
Right.
it's fine to use if it works for the people.
So I definitely want to apologize if I said Audacity previously in this episode. I meant Audition, because I'm reading the notes you sent and it clearly says Audition, and you've been talking about Audition. So really, we've all been talking about Audition, but I think I may have mistakenly called it Audacity a few times. Maybe, I don't know. So
Maybe.
I'm sorry for the listen. I'm sorry if you're listening to this and now you're confused. That's me being a terrible host of a podcast.
I guess we're doing fine and we're allowed to make mistakes.
No, it's
So-
okay. I mean, maybe if I could scan through this episode and
Well, then you overdub it, right?
yeah, I can overdub it. I'll just be like, Adobe. I'll do it in like a really dumb voice too. Adobe Audition. So, oh my God. All
and
right.
then people are wondering what the hell is he doing at that point, and later on, like an hour later, they discover like, oh, that's what happened.
Exactly. They're going to be like, why did he? That sounds ridiculous. And then an hour later, oh, okay. So Daniel Hager, the creator of the Hager microphone.
Oh, well, I guess that will now stick with me for some time.
Yes. And also the owner of Hager Media. And your show is called Let's Talk Retouching.
Right, where we talk about, so we have some guests and we talk about the business of retouching, image editing and stuff. And sometimes we have guests because I think in the post-production world, no matter if it's audio, video, images, people don't get a lot of credit for the work they're doing. And it's all the talent or the agency or whatever it is. So I wanted to do my part and I have other people have their voices heard. So that's why I came up with the idea of running the podcast.
Nice. And I have a question for you. In
Yes.
the Instagram app, they have all
Yes.
these filters to adjust the photo, and I use a lot of them. And I have fun adjusting it. As a professional retoucher, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being terrible, 10 being the best, how would you rate the quality of those filters in the Instagram app?
I would say 2.
What?
But people are using them. So I come from, so I do higher end retouching and I work on images that are going to be published in magazines like Vogue, Elle, Bazaar and stuff like this. And in that world, an Instagram filter obviously doesn't cut it at all. So but for regular images, they work fine. And there are a lot of models that pay for a photographer or whatever it is, and they have all that fancy gear and then put the images on Instagram and use filters and all that stuff. And yeah, that's how the world is running. So why not? It's working. It's cheap. I mean, it's free to use, and yeah, people like it. So why not?
Yeah.
But for me, it's like not my thing that much.
No, this is an exact analogy here between you. Like, here's the thing: you talking about photo retouching on a professional level in terms of Vogue magazine, comparing that to the filters in Instagram is like me as an audio engineer with real mics, real mic pre's, and real channel strips and high quality production, talking about, like, for instance, people recording podcasts on the Anchor app right from their phone.
And they're just starting out, right?
Right.
And they make their experiences, and some will notice that the quality isn't there, and some just don't care. So they will stay at that level for whatever time.
Right.
Which is fine. I mean, if it does the job for what the people need it for, it's obviously fine to use and fine to do that. But obviously, in production and higher-end production, there's still, even though we have a lot of AI and technology coming and helping us, there's still a lot of decisions to be made in the process. And that's why people pay us as professionals usually, to make a lot of decisions and good decisions.
Right. Very well said. And I people online, especially like on Facebook groups and stuff, they're like, oh, why would you pay someone, $500 to produce your episode or to mix your podcast?
Well, because that person probably knows what they are doing, and they're taking much less time probably to do it, doing it in much better quality. And the person that has it produced doesn't have to care about it. So what we probably expect a lot is when you are outsourcing, that you have to have a service provider that you feel comfortable with, because you can't always go for the cheapest. Outsource it to India, to wherever it's the cheapest, and your experience might not be good. Right. And it might take forever to get your files back or your production back. And so what are you doing then? Right? So, and that's why you probably make the decision to pay a little bit more money, because you know what you're getting and you can trust the outcome.
That's it. And I've been hearing your cat. So your cat is starting to say goodbye.
Yeah.
What's your cat's name?
Say goodbye. Lily.
Lily. All right, Lily. Yeah. Bye, Lily. Yeah, we are wrapping it up. Daniel Hager. Hager.media is the website. BoutiqueRetouching.com is the website. You can get these links.
Boutique Retouching. Yes, I will send the links over.
Yeah. No. And the links will be in the show notes for everybody, so you could just click through. Daniel, this has been great. I'm really happy that you're really taking your production so seriously, and that you're really putting effort into your shows, and that they're really turning out sounding really good. So I respect that a lot, man. So congratulations on that.
I hope they do. And thanks for having me. It was a super pleasure to be on the show, hang out, and geeking out, because I like geeking out, and I hope all the listeners do too.
Yeah, no, they love it. I love it. I love them. I love you. I love everything. I love everybody. Lily, Colorado, everything. All right, let's wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Lily says goodbye as well.
Oh, wait, Daniel, don't forget at the very end, you have to yell "sound great."
Okay.
I'll tell you when. Okay. Right here. Sound great!
Sounds great!
Yes!
Oh, yeah.
You walk away from me well, and you can't play that part so well. Why do you play it out on me now? You like to lose control well. It's quite a feeling, isn't it? They're floating, drifting down now. You tell me that you found something better. How should I respond to that? It's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. What the here is now where you're getting walked up on your now. You walk your way around